Namaste everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel Roots of Analytics. In this session, we'll see what is having clause and why we are using having clause. As of now, we have completed what is aliases and why we are using aliases. And also we have completed what all type of functions are there in SQL. We have seen like what is aggregate functions and why we are using aggregate function. In our last session, we have completed what is group by statement and how we are using group by statement with aggregate functions, and what is the result we are getting when we are using the aggregate functions and a group by statement together. So now we'll see what is having clause and why we are using having clause and how we can use having clause, aggregate function and group by statement together to get our desired data. First thing, we have to remember one thing: the having clause is reserved only for aggregate function. So if I want to use any condition on a aggregate function, at that time I should go with having clause, because like it will not work with where clause. So where clause is only specified when like we are not using any aggregate functions, when we are looking for some comparison rate data, or like any logical data. At that time we are going with the where clause, but aggregate function is only reserved for the aggregate function, and I'll show you like how we can use the having clause with the aggregate functions. And whenever we will use the aggregate function and having clause, we have to group the data before so that we can use the having clause. So just now we have completed the group by statement as well. You can go through that video to see like how group by works. So if you'll go and check like what is having clause, so having is reserved for aggregate function, so it will only work for the aggregate function. We cannot use where clause in aggregate function, so we are using having clause. So whenever there will be a requirement to use some condition with aggregate function, we cannot use where clause, we have to use the having clause. So both having clause and where clause, both the clauses are used for condition purpose, but having clause is used with the aggregate function and where clause is used with the general conditions. So having clause is used in end of the statement. So we will always use the having clause in end of the statement. So now we'll see by doing practical how these things are working on SQL. So if you will see here, so this is the query which I have written to group the data. So I will write this query, and if I'll execute this query, so these are the data I am getting, right? So product wise sales I have taken, and I have grouped the data here. So I have grouped the data on products and full date to see what is the sales for the products and dates. So now I want to see all the sales that is less than 60,000. So what I'll do, I will use the having clause here. Okay, the way I am using where clause, same I will use the having clause here. So what I am looking for, I am looking for the sum of sales that is less than 60,000. Okay, so sum of sales that is less than, okay, that is less than 60,000. So if I will execute this query, what should be the output? You can see over here 52,000, 49,000. That should be 2-line item. So if I will execute this query, you can see over here we are getting 2-line items only. So we are using having clause for conditional purpose only. So when we will use these things, so these are the output we'll get. So you can say like whether we can use where clause and having clause in a single statement. Yes, we can do it. We can use where clause and having clause in a single statement. So for that, how I can do it? Simply, I will take this query, I will paste it down. So here I want to copy. If I'll see the data, overall data, you can see these are the data I'm having right now. So I want to exclude all the data that is the profit is less than 5,000. Okay. So what I'll do here, I will use the where clause here. So always, I have already told you, like, we will always use where clause after the table name. So here I will use where clause, then I'll write the profit that is less than 5,000. Okay. So if I will execute this, so first thing, if I'll execute this query, so what all line items I am getting? Sorry, here as I am using sum, then I have to use the group by. So if I'll execute till here, so yes, see, you can see over here, these are the line items we are getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 5. So it excluded all the data where like profit is less than 5,000. Now I will see, but and now again I will use the having clause to see like where like the sum of sales are less than 60,000. So if I'll execute this query, you can see I'm only having one line item while like the sales are less than 52,000. Okay. So you can see over here, in this way I can use the where clause and having clause in a single statement. Please let me know if you want a separate video on like where clause and having clause, like how we can use the where clause and having clause in a single statement. I can bring one video where I'll show all those conditions that we are using with where clause and having clause. So we'll see like how we can use where clause and having clause in a single statement to get our desired output from the database. So in our next session, we'll see what is Scala function. Please let me know if you have any doubt. I will bring some new videos on these topics as well, so that it will have the clear understanding of all those concepts. Thanks for watching the video. Have a nice day. Take care. Bye bye.